The diplomatic vessel Orion's Veil hovered just outside the orbit of Zithra Prime, its hull catching the first rays of the planet's twin suns. Elias Vera, Earth's envoy, tugged nervously at the cuffs of his ceremonial tunic for the 7th time in 10 minutes. Each adjustment seemed to make him look less like a dignitary and more like a human-sized origami. "You look like a confused lantern," a sharp female voice buzzed in his earpiece. Lyra, his AI assistant, always had a way of turning his anxiety into sarcasm. "Noted." "Very comforting," Elias muttered, exhaling slowly as the docking clamps latched onto the gleaming orbital palace. Below him, Zithra Prime shimmered like liquid sapphire, vast oceans interspersed with jagged crystal mountains that reflected sunlight in dazzling fractals. Somewhere within the palace's obsidian spire, Queen Seraphine Kor waited, her reputation preceding her. A ruler both brilliant and ruthless, who had quelled civil uprisings with nothing but a stare. The boarding ramp extended, and Elias's first step onto solid ground made him sink slightly into the bioluminescent moss covering the ceremonial courtyard. "Remember the protocol," Lyra reminded. "Bend at the waist, avoid direct eye contact unless summoned, and for the love of diplomacy, don't faint." A triangular formation of palace attendants approached, their silver robes glinting with embedded energy filaments that pulsed softly. They carried staffs that doubled as communicators, defense mechanisms, and environmental regulators. Elias bowed, nearly tripping on the polished obsidian tiles, while the tallest attendant announced him. "You stand before Seraphine Kor, sovereign of Zithra Prime, guardian of the twin suns, and arbiter of the crystal spire." Elias straightened as the doors of the palace opened. Light spilled into the courtyard, and there she was, Seraphine Kor, seated on her throne of obsidian and glowing cobalt inlaid with shifting holographic glyphs. Her long platinum hair cascaded over a suit of polished silver-black armor, delicate yet intimidating. She raised a single eyebrow, her eyes locking onto his for a heartbeat too long. "I am honored to meet you," Elias stammered. "Curious," she replied softly, her voice like the hum of a distant star. "Most humans are either terrified or painfully dull. You are neither. For now, that is intriguing." The attendants subtly guided him closer to the throne, and he noticed the faint shimmer of motion behind her. Elite guards, silent as shadows, observing with barely contained vigilance. "Your presence is unusual," Seraphine said, eyes narrowing slightly. "You carry the scent of chaos and calculations alike." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down on him. I try to make an impression," he admitted. Seraphine's lips curved in a near imperceptible smile. "You succeed. Or at least you will if you survive the day." She gestured toward the inner palace gates. "Follow me. The ceremonies begin. Fail, and you will not be remembered fondly. Succeed, and perhaps you may earn my respect. That is, if your species is capable of such things." Elias's heart thudded in his chest. He stepped forward, each footfall echoing across the crystalline courtyard. Whatever trials awaited him, he realized, meeting Queen Seraphine Kor was not just a matter of protocol. It was the beginning of a challenge that would test his wit, courage, and perhaps his heart. Elias followed Seraphine Kor through the palace gates into a hallway that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The walls shimmered with embedded light filaments, forming constantly shifting symbols that tracked his every movement. Gravity subtly fluctuated underfoot, forcing him to adjust his balance with each step. "They make you feel watched," Lyra whispered. "Which is exactly the point." Seraphine walked beside him, her armor softly clinking, yet she moved with the fluidity of a predator who had never known fear. "Do humans often stumble so much?" she asked without looking at him. "Not usually," Elias admitted, trying not to trip over the invisible boundary lines that the palace floor imposed. "I may be an exception." She tilted her head, long hair brushing a shoulder plate. "Interesting. Exceptions are useful. They can surprise us." The hallway opened into a vast chamber, known as the Labyrinth of Echoes, a legendary construct buried beneath Zithra Prime for centuries. It was said to test not only mind and body, but the very essence of one's character. The air hummed, vibrating softly, carrying whispers that seemed to come from every corner at once. The faint glow of floating crystals illuminated paths that twisted and looped in impossible angles. "You will navigate this labyrinth alone," Seraphine instructed. "Do not lose your sense of self." Many have entered and emerged changed. Elias swallowed hard as he stepped onto the first crystal-lined corridor. Immediately, the whispers formed distinct voices, questioning, challenging, mocking. "Why do you think you are worthy?" one hissed. You are insignificant, another murmured. A third voice, impossibly familiar, asked, Do you even deserve her attention? Lyra's voice cut through the cacophony. Focus. Remember, every echo is a test. Ignore the distractions. They cannot harm you physically. Mentally, that's another story. Hours passed, or was it minutes? Time in the labyrinth had no meaning. Elias debated with shadows that mimicked the faces of Earth diplomats, argued with phantom versions of himself, and answered riddles that seemed to anticipate his thoughts before he even formed them. Each success led him deeper into the labyrinth, while every hesitation caused the echoes to grow louder, more insistent. At one point, a crystal arch split open to reveal a mirror-like pool, perfectly reflecting the labyrinth and Elias himself. Do you trust your reflection? A whisper asked. He stared at the pale, tense figure staring back. I trust what I know, he replied. A ripple passed through the water, and suddenly the reflections began moving independently, mocking, mimicking, testing. Elias felt panic rise but clenched his jaw. I know who I am, he said firmly. I am not defined by fear, nor by doubt, nor by anyone else's expectations. The chamber trembled, the echoes quieted, and a soft light bathed the corridor ahead. Elias exhaled, his shoulders sagging in exhaustion and relief. At the far end, Seraphine Kor awaited, seated on a hovering dais that rotated slowly like a celestial observatory. Her eyes studied him, unreadable and brilliant. You emerged intact, she said softly, almost approvingly. Most collapse or surrender to their own uncertainty. You did not. Elias blinked, still catching his breath. It was difficult. Good, she replied. Difficulty is instructive. It separates those who are merely clever from those who are capable. You have passed the first challenge. Do not become complacent. The next will test more than your mind. Elias's stomach twisted at her words. This was only the beginning. The labyrinth had tested his intellect and resilience, but Seraphine's gaze hinted at trials that would probe his very spirit. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of excitement stirred. He was playing a game unlike any he had faced, and the stakes were unlike any he had imagined. He followed her silently, each step echoing like a promise. Survive, endure, and perhaps, just perhaps, earn the trust of Seraphine Kor. The chamber doors slid open with a hum that resonated deep in Elias's chest. Inside, the Court of Minds awaited, a vast, circular hall suspended above nothing but a void that shimmered with stars, as if the universe itself watched their proceedings. Dozens of Viran scholars floated in translucent pods, their bodies partially phased into visible energy, eyes glinting with cold, analytical precision. Seraphine Kor led Elias to a central platform. Here, your intellect will be measured, she said, voice calm but edged with authority. Logic alone is insufficient. You must demonstrate creativity, empathy, and understanding beyond the obvious. Elias swallowed hard, his hands tightening around the edges of the platform. The scholars' pods began rotating slowly, sending ripples of pressure through the air. Their voices blended into a choir of dispassionate questioning. Define loyalty without invoking allegiance, one intoned. Explain chaos as a constructive force, another demanded. Elias hesitated. Every instinct told him this was a trap designed to expose weakness. He closed his eyes briefly, centering himself. Loyalty, he began, is not merely obedience or tradition. It is the choice to protect what you value, even when no reward exists. It is commitment beyond expectation. A murmur passed through the floating scholars, almost imperceptible, yet Elias felt it like a shift in gravity. Chaos, another asked, tone sharper, almost a blade. It is the catalyst for adaptation, Elias replied. Without disruption, systems stagnate. Chaos forces evolution, but only when guided by perception and understanding. Blind chaos is destruction. Conscious chaos can reveal solutions invisible in order alone. The scholars paused, their forms rippling like water over stone. One leaned forward, seemingly impressed, though it was impossible to be certain. And love? It asked, its tone gentle but insistent. Elias's throat went dry. He thought of Seraphine, of the subtle way her gaze had anchored him in the labyrinth, and of the quiet confidence that radiated from her presence. Love, he said carefully, is a form of recognition. It is seeing another person as they are, valuing them beyond utility, and choosing their well-being even when the cost is yours. It is understanding and risk combined. The chamber fell into a tense silence. The stars outside the void shimmered as if holding their breath. Then Seraphine's voice cut through softly, a tether amidst the pressure. He answers honestly, she said. Elias exhaled, uncertain whether it was approval or merely acknowledgement. The scholars began a slow rotation, their pods moving closer, then farther, probing, observing. One final question echoed, more like a vibration than sound. Would you sacrifice peace for the life of another? The question struck Elias like a physical blow. Memories of past decisions, of battles, of consequences, all collided in his mind. Yet the answer was clear. Yes, he said quietly. I would. Peace is a concept. A life is real. Its value cannot be measured by treaties or protocols. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the pods shifted, withdrawing slightly, a subtle signal of acceptance, or at least tolerance. Seraphine stepped closer, her expression unreadable. You passed, she said simply. Many falter here, not for lack of knowledge, but for hesitation. You hesitated only once, and even then, your reasoning saved you. Elias's shoulders slumped in relief, but he could not afford to relax. What comes next? He asked. The final trial, she replied, eyes glinting. It will test not your mind, but your heart. Prepare yourself, for it will demand everything you value most. He swallowed hard, trying to steady the surge of anticipation and fear. Seraphine's gaze held him in place, unwavering, and he realized this challenge was not only about survival. It was about proving he belonged beside her, in a world both strange and magnificent. As they left the floating hall, the void below seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Elias understood one thing clearly. The Court of Minds had been only a prelude. The next trial would define him, and perhaps define their fate together. Elias followed Seraphine Core through a corridor bathed in soft, pulsating light, the walls alive with bioluminescent veins that seemed to breathe. He could feel the weight of anticipation pressing against his chest, each step echoing with unspoken stakes. This is the trial of heart, Seraphine said quietly, her voice a steady anchor in the quiet hum of the chamber. It tests loyalty, courage, and emotional clarity. Nothing else matters here, no intellect, no strategy. Just choice. The doors ahead slid open, revealing a chamber unlike any Elias had imagined. It was a vast expanse, suspended in darkness, with shifting fragments of light floating in midair, each representing a memory, a possibility, a decision he could make. At the center hovered Seraphine, encased in a translucent sphere of energy that flickered as if her life were balanced on a fragile thread. Your task, her voice echoed softly through the void, is simple in description, impossible in practice. Choose, preserve me or preserve 1,000 lives across the system. Elias froze. Thousands of lives, yet she stood before him, the only person who had anchored his mind through the labyrinth and the court of minds. Every principle he held collided violently with his emotions. He looked at her serene face, the strength in her gaze, and felt the gravity of her trust. The floating fragments of light shifted, showing faces of innocents, children, diplomats, all counting on his decision. And then, subtly, another fragment appeared, a memory of Seraphine's smile in the throne room, her subtle glance in the corridors, the warmth of her hand on his during the first trial. Time is passing, Seraphine's voice urged. Do not delay beyond comprehension. Choice is action. Hesitation is failure. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the surge of fear and responsibility. His mind screamed that the right answer was to save the masses, yet his heart screamed for her. Every lesson from the Court of Minds, every survival instinct, and every fleeting emotion collided in a singular, crystallized understanding. I choose her, he whispered, voice trembling. I choose her life. I will risk everything else. The sphere around Seraphine flared with light, a pulse so bright it cast shadows across the chamber of possibilities. The floating fragments of other lives wavered, some vanishing, some settling silently, acknowledging his choice. You understand what this means? Seraphine asked, her tone soft but edged with gravity. By choosing me, you accept the consequences. The system may collapse, lives may be lost, and you will carry the weight. I understand, Elias said, his voice firmer now. But I also understand that some connections, some lives, cannot be measured by numbers alone. Yours is one I cannot sacrifice because it is real. And if I fail knowing I chose what I could not abandon. The chamber stilled. The light fragments shimmered once more, then dissolved, leaving only Elias and Seraphine suspended in the soft luminescence. Slowly, the sphere surrounding her dissipated, and she stepped toward him, her expression unreadable yet warm. You have passed, she said simply. Not by preserving the system, not by logic, but by proving the one thing that cannot be tested by intellect alone, your heart. Few can do this, and fewer still can withstand the consequences. You are rare, Elias. He exhaled, relief and dread mingling, his pulse echoing in his ears. What happens now? He asked. Now, she said, a faint smile curving her lips, we face the tribunal. But you have proven something essential, your commitment. That will carry far more weight than any argument or policy. As they left the trial of heart, Elias understood one truth clearly. This challenge had not only tested his courage, it had exposed the depth of what he would risk for her. The path ahead would be perilous, but he now knew he would not waver. Elias stepped onto the rotating platform of the Tribunal of Stars, the chamber stretching infinitely in every direction, illuminated by distant suns and the faint glow of orbiting satellites. Hundreds of delegates from countless civilizations floated in observation, their forms ranging from gaseous beings to crystalline entities, all awaiting the verdict of the trial of heart. Seraphine Kaur walked beside him, her posture flawless, her presence commanding attention without a single word. Elias tried to match her calm, though his heart raced. The platform shifted, positioning them at the center of a circular council, each delegate silently scrutinizing their every movement. Elias Voss, representative of Earth, the tribunal's voice resonated, amplified through every corner of the chamber. You have undergone trials that tested mind, courage, and heart. You now stand before us to determine if your union with Princess Seraphine Kaur can be sanctioned without destabilizing interstellar protocol. Delegates murmured in unison, the vibrations forming an almost musical resonance, their languages incomprehensible, yet somehow understood in essence. Elias swallowed hard. This was not diplomacy by books or lectures. This was survival by impression, by authenticity, by choice. A large crystalline delegate shifted its facets, producing a cascade of refracted light. Explain why you would place one life above many. How does your decision not disrupt cosmic order? It demanded. Elias glanced at Seraphine. She gave a subtle nod, her eyes encouraging him to speak from the heart. I understand the weight of my choice, he began, his voice steady despite the pressure. Logic says I should prioritize the greatest number, but I have learned that some connections, the ones that inspire action, compassion, and hope, cannot be quantified. Seraphine is that connection, and in choosing her, I choose a future worth protecting, not because it is easy, but because it is real. The chamber was silent. Some delegates shimmered in approval, others warped in uncertainty. Elias continued, finding courage in the very audacity of his statement. By committing to her, I demonstrate a principle stronger than fear, strategy, or protocol. Love, trust, and commitment are forces that shape alliances more enduringly than laws alone. That is why I choose her. Seraphine's gaze softened, but she remained regal, waiting for the tribunal to respond. The air seemed to hum with anticipation. Slowly, a council elder, a being composed of interlaced silver tendrils, floated forward. Your words carry weight, yet words alone do not suffice. Action must accompany them. Are you prepared to face the consequences across worlds for this union? I am, Elias replied without hesitation. Every consequence, every challenge, every trial. I will endure for her, because the truth of my choice cannot be undone by circumstance or fear. A pause stretched across the chamber. Then, the crystalline delegate fractured into a spectrum of light, a gesture of approval among its kind. Others followed, each signal resonating with acknowledgement. The tribunal was deliberate, precise, and unyielding, but now their deliberation had turned toward recognition. Finally, the lead voice, deep and melodic, intoned. The union is acknowledged. Pending a final evaluation of public sentiment across interstellar networks, the principle of this alliance shall stand. Your courage, choice, and unwavering heart have proven sufficient to override centuries of protocol. Elias exhaled, relief coursing through him, but he knew this was not the end. The galaxy itself now watched, every planet and polity waiting for them to succeed. He glanced at Seraphine. Her eyes held pride in something softer, a promise of partnership. Next, she said softly, we face the court of public judgment. The galaxy will test our union, and only our unity will carry us through. Elias nodded, understanding the enormity of what lay ahead. The tribunal had accepted their hearts, but the universe would challenge their resolve. And yet, for the first time, he felt certain he could face anything with her by his side. Elias and Seraphine Kaur stepped onto the observation deck of the Starliner Aurora, the glass floor revealing the spiraling dance of a binary star system below. The galaxy's eyes were on them, literally. Hollow cameras floated around the deck, transmitting every gesture, every glance, every breath, to worlds that had never witnessed an interspecies union. Seraphine's expression was serene, but Elias could feel the tension in her fingers brushing against his arm. "First impressions matter," she whispered, "and we are making ours before billions." Elias nodded, trying to embody the confidence he did not feel. Their first stop was the planet Zithra, 9, known for its xenophile culture and obsession with underdog stories. The landing platform was alive with media drones, eager delegates, and a floating orchestra that tuned themselves midair. A Zytherian host approached, their forms shimmering like liquid crystal. "Welcome, honored couple," it said in perfect galactic standard. "Your union is unprecedented. How do you address the fears of our people?" Elias cleared his throat, relying on instinct more than diplomacy. "We understand caution, but our choice is based on understanding, trust, and the willingness to face challenges together. If we can endure trials meant to test heart and courage, then we can embody the very principles that unite diverse civilizations." Seraphine added, her voice calm yet magnetic, "Leadership is not always about precedent. Sometimes it is about showing that collaboration, respect, and sincerity outweigh fear and tradition." The audience was captivated. The media drones recorded every word, and Elias could feel the approval ratings, visible on his HUD, spike in real time. He exhaled. One small victory. Next, they traveled to Orcs Prime, a planet obsessed with spectacle. Here, their trials took the form of interpretive displays, dance, simulated combat, and interactive holographic debates. Elias tripped once, misjudging a levitation step, and Seraphine's soft laugh echoed through the chamber, humanizing them in a way no speech ever could. By the time they reached Valen, a conservative hub that had opposed cross-species unions for centuries, the stakes were higher. Every gesture was scrutinized. Every word could be twisted into political sabotage. A delegate asked Elias to recite a proverb from Earth that could inspire unity. Hesitant, he chose one at random. Even the smallest flame can guide a lost traveler. Seraphine followed seamlessly with her own Vlaran proverb about courage and trust. The combination, a bridge of culture and meaning, won reluctant smiles and nods. After weeks of interstellar appearances, demonstrations, and public addresses, Elias and Seraphine had transformed from an anomaly into a symbol. Across galaxies, social networks were flooded with footage of their trials, memes of missteps and graceful recoveries, and tributes praising their partnership. Even the most skeptical observers began to soften, inspired by the authenticity of their bond. Back on the Aurora, as they floated in zero-gravity sipping nutrient pods, Elias laughed softly. "I didn't think we'd survive Zithra, 9, let alone Valen." Seraphine brushed a lock of her silver-streaked hair from her face. "We didn't survive alone. Every choice, every mistake, every laugh, it mattered because we faced it together. That's what matters, Elias." He nodded, the weight of the galaxy's scrutiny pressing on him, yet tempered by certainty. "Then we keep going. Show them that this, whatever we have, is real." Seraphine's smile was quiet, confident, and radiant. "We will. One world at a time." Elias and Seraphine Core docked on the orbital station Varelia, a hub of political power and whispers. The station itself hovered over a storm-racked gas giant, its swirling clouds a constant reminder that even in peace, chaos lurked. Here, the opposition awaited. As they entered the council chamber, a low murmur of disapproval rippled through the assembly. Delegates in flowing robes, armored suits, and translucent forms exchanged sharp glances. A faction known as the Obsidian Concord had mobilized, intent on proving that no human could comprehend the complexities of alien heritage. Elias Voss, intoned the Concord leader, a towering figure with obsidian plating that gleamed under the chamber's bright lights. "You claim unity, yet you trample tradition. Your union defies centuries of law, culture, and reason." Elias swallowed hard. Seraphine's hand rested on his, grounding him. "I don't claim perfection," he said, voice steady despite the tension. "I claim honesty, partnership, and the courage to face challenges with someone I trust." The Concord scoffed, but a younger delegate whispered to their neighbor, clearly swayed by the sincerity in Elias's tone. Seraphine stepped forward, her silver-streaked hair catching the sunlight streaming through the panoramic window. "Our union is not an insult to tradition," she said, voice clear and unwavering. "It is a testament to evolution, of diplomacy, of understanding, and of love. If fear guides decisions, civilizations stagnate. We choose growth." Whispers turned to murmurs. Screens in the chamber displayed clips of Elias and Seraphine's previous trials. The labyrinth of echoes, interpretive debates, and moments of quiet authenticity that transcended cultural barriers. Each image, each gesture, each laugh was proof that this bond was genuine, resilient, and capable of inspiring change. Yet the Concord was relentless. Words alone do not suffice. We demand proof, the leader growled. A demonstration of your ability to face danger, to survive trials that test not just heart, but mind and body. Seraphine exchanged a glance with Elias. He nodded. We've faced trials before. We can face more. The chamber shifted. Holographic doors opened to reveal the Trial of Shadows, an ancient test where the participants confronted the fears and doubts of every species represented in the council. Elias felt the gravity of the moment. This was no longer about impressing a single planet or faction. It was about proving that their union could endure scrutiny from the galaxy itself. Shadows coalesced around them, forming specters of fear, doubt, and hostility. Elias's pulse quickened, but Seraphine's calm presence anchored him. Trust me, she whispered. We faced them together. They moved as one, dodging illusions designed to exploit their insecurities. Each step was a test of coordination, empathy, and courage. When Elias faltered, Seraphine's grip steadied him. When Seraphine hesitated, Elias mirrored her movements, reinforcing their unity. The chamber grew silent as the final shadow dissipated. Elias and Seraphine stood, breathing hard but resolute. The Obsidian Concord stared, speechless for the first time. Then slowly applause began, hesitant at first, then swelling into a chorus that echoed throughout Varelia. Seraphine raised an eyebrow at Elias. See? Even shadows bow to sincerity. Elias exhaled, half laughing, half relieved. Sincerity, or dumb luck? Both, she said with a grin. But mostly sincerity. As they left the chamber, the council chambers buzzing with debate, Elias knew the final scene awaited. The public unveiling of their union, and the irreversible choice that would either cement their place as envoys of a new era or force them to face exile. The vast arena of the Celestial Forum stretched before Elias and Seraphine Core, a circular platform suspended above a sea of spectators spanning dozens of planetary delegations. Twin suns bathed the chamber in sharp, unflinching light, illuminating every detail of the delegates' faces, from alien compound eyes to human expressions of cautious hope. Today, centuries of tradition and the judgment of countless civilizations rested on a single question. Could a human and an alien princess unite without destabilizing the galaxy? Elias's heart thudded. He could feel Seraphine's calm beside him, her hand brushing against his, steadying him. Hollow panels around the forum displayed their past trials, the labyrinth of echoes, the court of minds, and the mortal choice simulation. Evidence of their resilience, courage, and mutual trust glimmered for all to see. Varel Quinn, the head of the Galactic Tribunal, hovered above the platform in a levitating chair. His voice resonated through the forum, amplified yet warm. Representatives of the Celestial Assembly, we have witnessed unprecedented displays of intellect, emotional fortitude, and cooperation between two species long considered incompatible. Today, you must deliver your verdict. A murmur spread through the crowd. Delegates leaned forward, some skeptical, others curious, and a few openly rooting for the human and princess. A Marazian elder rose, his gelatinous form quivering. We feared this union would erode our traditions, destabilize alliances, and breed unpredictability. Yet, these trials demonstrate adaptability, resilience, and dare I say, honesty. We find merit in their bond. One by one, species delivered their judgment. The Thorn representatives cited psychological studies, showing genuine interspecies empathy. The Varelians highlighted Seraphine's unwavering support for Elias in trials that tested mind, heart, and instinct. Even the Obsidian Concord, initially opposed, grudgingly acknowledged that their unity inspired hope among the younger generation of delegates. Finally, Varel Quinn's voice cut through. By unanimous consent of the Galactic Assembly, Elias Voss and Princess Seraphine Core are declared officially united. Their alliance shall serve as a model for interspecies diplomacy, trust, and cooperation. May their partnership guide us toward a future of understanding rather than fear. A wave of applause, alien and human alike, surged through the forum. Hollow flares projected their faces onto screens across dozens of planets. Elias blinked, overwhelmed. Seraphine's eyes glimmered with a mixture of triumph and relief. Elias, she whispered as they stepped from the platform, we did it. We actually did it. He exhaled, feeling the weight of centuries of scrutiny lift. We did survive the galaxy. The crowd's cheers mingled with the hum of celebratory energy. Delegates approached, offering gifts, endorsements, and cautious smiles. Children on distant worlds painted their faces like seraphines, ears elongated in homage to the princess who had dared to defy expectation. Elias glanced at Seraphine. "Do you realize what this means? That our love, our partnership, is now a symbol," she said, a soft smile touching her lips. "Not just for us, but for everyone who ever doubted that different worlds could understand each other." He nodded, heart full. "We survived trials that could have ended in exile or disaster. And we did it together." Seraphine's gaze softened. "We will face the challenges ahead. Bureaucracy, tradition, skepticism. The galaxy will test us again and again. But we'll do it as one." Elias laughed, a mixture of relief and joy. "Then let them try. We're ready." As the twin suns reflected off the forum's crystalline surfaces, Elias and Seraphine Core stood hand in hand, united not only by choice, but by every trial, every shadow, every whispered fear they had faced. The galaxy had spoken, and their union had prevailed. The future was uncertain, perilous, and thrilling, but for the first time, they would face it together. The story of the human and the alien princess would ripple across worlds, a legend of courage, sincerity, and defiance, a testament to the power of connection against the weight of tradition. The curtain fell on their trials, but the adventure of their union had only just begun.